What about going barefoot? We have a mutual friend, Timothy Sheaf, and he took me up to Mount Snowdon about a month ago. And of course, he picks me up at the train station barefoot.
Yeah.
He used to roll up to my studio back in the day barefoot, on the tube barefoot, walking around London barefoot. Do you do that? Do you encourage people to do that? Or is that an extreme?
I think, for most, it raises too many socially extreme eyebrows.
30 feet and it just...
No, I go wherever. If I feel like being barefoot, I'll be barefoot. But at the same time, you might as well wear a footwear that's a barefoot design.
Okay.
That's wide enough in the toe box, that has a casual, smart wear, training wear. It's never the same as being barefoot, but you have to remember that what I discovered on my run, see, as much as I promote being barefoot and I love barefoot running, there's debris, there's stuff from the zoo culture that doesn't exist in nature, right? So the glass and the God knows what else that's sometimes out there.
You split your foot open, didn't you, on your run?
And if you, and you know what? It's never on the. That's the road and the tarmac. I do that all day. It's just that stuff gets pushed into the grass verge. You go into the grass verge, you don't know what's lurking in there. Do you know what I mean? So
that's what's dangerous.
That's what can be dangerous. But there's certain things that are said for being barefoot. Grounding. You've got microbiome. There's a sensory system there. There's a microbiotic system there. And there's a grounding element to it. There's so much more available from it. I think, get out in nature. Like if you're on the heath, why wear shoes?
Yeah.
There's no debris around that place. That's like, around the bins maybe.
Yeah.
But then you're exposing yourself to something that's much deeper, which is, again, microbiome. There's the grounding experience of it. But we're a sensorial being, right? So our senses come alive from that. So if we look at, let's say, sensory genomics, which is a field about neuroplasticity in a way, right? We live in linear boxes, right? We survive in a linear box. Every experience is the same. We're going to go from this linear box into another linear box on a linear piece of transport into the next linear box, go and lie down on a bed, get up again, go and repeat the same process. So there's no new sensorial experience within that. Therefore, we're not neurologically rewiring or wiring the brain, which hence would be stagnation. If we look at that for neurological diseases, I think there's a big problem that amounts through that.
That creates which
might be dementia, it might be anything that can come through that, because you're not in a state of taking on new sensory information. Even down to our hands, everything is flat. You use screens, we use phones. Everything is the same linear surface, and we're becoming even more sensory deprived. So sensory deprivation can lead to neurological disease, right? So just getting out into nature, firstly, is just seeing, nature is forever changing. It's never the same scene. You never put your foot in the same stream, right? It's always changing. But it's the same as even the leaves on the trees. It's forever changing. Nature never remains the same. So one walk on the heath will never be the same.
Yeah.
So that's a new experience. I often believe in that. So I think, getting the shoes off and just experiencing everything through that sensory system. Then you can bring like Zach Bush's work in by looking at microbiome and what you can be absorbing through that as well.
Okay. Do you suggest that people go slow? So I'm on the heath every weekend, but I'm in my shoes.
Yeah.
So I can't, if I just throw them off and go a mile in the heath, are my feet going to get all busted up and am I going to be tiptoeing along? Or should I start with a couple hundred meters and then do another 100 the next weekend? Or should I just dive all the way in?
The really interesting thing would be for someone to blindfold you, right?
Okay.
And walk you around on the heath.
It would be interesting.
Because you take away the visual aspect, which just looking at the ground, right, is enough to create that kind of experience, which creates more tension. Okay. So imagine if there's rock and there's you, who gives, rock or you?
I guess it's me.
It has to be you, right?
Yeah.
But the visual stimulation of that rock, if there's spikes or something on it, will create more tension. So instead of you giving, you start to become hard on hard. Therefore, it hurts more, right? On top of that, the average foot, because it's been contained within a shoe shape or has rubber underneath it, because of the rubber, you actually become a stiff component. So if you were to wear a conventional running shoe that's soft, and you went for a walk on hard surface, the hard surface is hard, the rubber gives, and you become stiff above it. There's the compliance and stiffness within it. Right. So when you take that rubberized footwear away that you've been conditioned into, domesticated into, there's a process you have to go through to be able to understand how to become compliant again. And I think that becomes like breathing, mindfulness, maybe choosing terrain to begin with, like grass and impacted earth. And then tarmac's really lovely. Tarmac is really surprising. A really smooth bit of tarmac. It's beautiful to walk on and run on. Yeah. And then you learn how to become compliant again. The thing is learning to become soft and compliant. Like if you work on hard surfaces, you've done a bit of Ido's work, right? So if you have a hard surface, how do you become compliant on that surface? You keep working on the surface and you have to become soft. And it's the same with being barefoot. You can literally run over anything if you can trust that innate system. We look at, we think the Range Rover is sophisticated, right? Oh, it can calibrate, we can work, the suspension can change over anything. Okay, go and run on sand, go and run on concrete, go and run on mud, go and run on any trail, and we have a far superior suspension system available. Once you surrender to it, or you understand how to rewild that kind of nature, that innate stuff, I think it's, we have so much that human potential, it's untapped, right?
Yeah.
So I think you have to go through a process, which for me is always, I call it rewilding, right? It's like, how do we get from that stage to that stage? I think first one would be firstly is the rewilding exercise, a toga for the feet, wear barefoot footwear to allow your feet to open up, everyday wear. And then when you are in nature, just say the soft stuff, right, let's start with that because that's compliant, and then you can start to understand, and then start to just play with different surfaces. And I think play is like, we lose sight of it. It's like, reps, counting reps and whatever, just stay within a playful state. Look at my kids, they just play all day, right? They don't go to school, they're unschooled, so they just literally play. They're in a state of play and they learn everything they need to learn from their environment through a state of play. So I think it's keeping it in that playful state will help as well. I look at running as not even a physical experience. It's way beyond that. It's like a spiritual, social, playful. I enter other realms with it. I don't see it as, all right, okay, it's reps, miles, heart rate, blood pressure. I haven't worn a heart rate monitor in I don't know how long. Don't wear a Garmin, just go and play.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. And again, you did a great video with Rich Roll where you were out on the trails, and I think Rich looked at your feet afterwards and he's expecting to see these big calloused, bare feet, and they're not. They're actually quite these soft.
Because they've had to soften.
Right.
It's
counterintuitive.
It's complete, yeah. So, you become desensitized by wearing footwear. It's the opposite, isn't it, to what we think. Yeah. You create more sensitivity, which then you learn the skills to deal with the terrain through the senses. And so even now, like my feet have developed through that run, there's like pads. They become like jelly. And there was a moment when between the big toe and the second toe started to wear a bit thin. And then you see a bit of the blood vessels, and it wasn't looking great. But again, the adaptation again, it's like a whole new pad, and it's soft again, and the feet just heal very quickly. But it has to be, again, I think it's exposure. You have to expose it.